Welcome to the Big Cats Women's Program 30th Anniversary Podcast. I'm your host Simone Wern, and over the next few episodes we'll be celebrating 30 years of women's baseball at the Springvale Lions Baseball Club. Join us as we share the stories and the moments that have helped shape our program and make it what it is today. This week for episode 8 we're excited to be joined by the Outfielders, Shirl and Shannas, two of our favourites who've been patrolling the outfield for more than 10 years, winning multiple premierships and continuing to work hard to deliver both in the field and with the bat. So come along and celebrate what has been a great 30 years full of memories and laughs. Let's get into it. Welcome, girls. Today, episode 8. We made it. We made it to episode 8. I've been waiting for this one for some time.
Have you?
Sinead and Shirl, how are you going?
Good, thank you. Very excited to be here.
You both look a little
worried,
nervous,
concerned, and I feel like it's probably less about trying to recount memories and more about the photos I may bring up.
Yeah, well, you've sort of given us a little heads up that there are some entertaining photos. So, yeah, there's a level of anxiety.
That's how it should be. It makes it more entertaining for the viewers, and that's what it's all about. So we've had a name, as you know, for each podcast.
Yep.
The Outfielders, a pretty, relevant name for anyone who's followed the Big Cats women's program would be very familiar. Both of you have played other positions, of course, but you're well known for your work in the outfield, and in particular, most recently, the grand final Div 1 last year where we had another victory out at Altona.
I don't think I touched the ball at all.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
Thank you, Sour.
Thank you, Sour Gummy. We miss you. As we have been doing every week, I do want to go back to the start, back to the beginning, and this is hard because we're obviously a little older and starting to sort of go back to those memories becomes difficult. Both of you at the club for over 10 years. Sloane a little bit longer than Shannas. But before we go back to the start, this is the photo that people have been asking me for. It's not the exact photo, but it's the closest I could find. And so in the history of our club, you know, we've talked a lot about the games and the moments and the friendships, yay. But the post-grand final celebrations, and this is early on in your career, enjoying a couple, and it literally was a couple of drinks.
Sips.
Not full drinks. After the club. Do you remember this evening, Sloane?
Honestly, no.
From the look of the photo, I can see why. This is a great memory, and we'll come back to that a little bit later when we talk about celebrating and creating great friendships and all those things. But I had to bring that up. It couldn't go unsaid. And then I had to bring these up because if we're talking about the start, this is your first season at the club pitching. I just love that the photos I found of your first season, the only evidence of your first season is you pitching.
Oh, God.
Isn't that brilliant? Do you remember coming to the club and what it was like back in those days? Because you turned up the year that Berwick began. So it was the same year that Berwick Springvale happened, and obviously you had some great mates on the Berwick team. You were playing in the twos for Springvale with your great mate, Scoot. What are your memories of coming to the club and sort of starting that first year?
I remember me and Scoot, we became friends after we joined Monash. And I think we played one winter together. But that year, I think there was only 3 teams in that winter season. So it was until the following winter where I think Berwick had a team and the women's comp was much bigger. And then we played winter and we all became friends. And then we were like, maybe it's time to play summer. And so we were like, oh, how about Springvale? But then you guys were like, oh, we're going to start a second team with Berwick. You'll have to go to Springvale. Don't come to Berwick because we don't know what's going to happen there. So, yeah, me and Scoot came over, played in the twos. I think we played almost every position, as evident from this.
Yeah. I was saying, well, I talked to Beto about this because Beto played in that team as well, and Kelly Wolfe, who's Kelly Ridd now, played in that team too, and it was kind of cool for that team because it was, you could sort of do whatever you wanted. Like the focus was on the firsts and the two teams, and there was sort of a little bit of stuff going on in the background, and that team could go and do whatever they wanted. And Beto said she felt like it was really fun because there was sort of flexibility, and it was like we could just sort of come and go and have a good time. And she said everyone sort of played any position and no one really cared. Like you wanted to win, but if you didn't, it was okay. And she said it was one of the first times Mick was sort of a bit more relaxed because you had Mick and Stu coaching.
Yeah, no, I got yelled at a few times, I remember.
Everyone will continue to cop that, I think.
Back then, we were very young and we definitely didn't take baseball seriously. We'd muck around at trainings, during the game. I know that annoyed you a lot. But yeah, no, back then everything was not very serious for us.
Yeah.
So that twos team with Evil and EJ, that team was pretty fun.
Very cool. Flan, you came a little bit later, so you obviously had a quite a long career at a club that you loved at Malvern, and you were still playing at Malvern when you first went away with the Emeralds 2010 famous silver medal in Venezuela. And this is some of the older photos of you coming over early on in your career. What was it like for you coming over? And I've already mentioned this on one of the podcasts, but maybe you can provide a bit more insight because you came from a Div 1 club.
Yeah.
You'd played high level.
Yep.
But suddenly, and no offence intended to Malvern, but they didn't necessarily have the calibre of consistent across the board high level players we did. What was it like coming into that environment and coming into the club?
It was very eye-opening. So going back to Malvern, I was probably a little unfortunate that I started at Malvern when there was a bit of mass exodus. So, people like Emma Banks had just left, and it had gone from being a really strong Div 1 club to, I guess, slowly on the decline. And with that, the coaches sort of started to disappear as well. So it was a much more relaxed environment with players who were kind of, I don't want to say past their prime, but, they'd played at a high level previously and were sort of wanting a social sort of aspect. So I think at Malvern, so I went there when I was 15. And I'd sort of played at Greensborough, where very, very casual. Drinking was the number one sport at that club. So I think I thought that I worked hard. Like going from Greensborough to Malvern was a step up. And yeah, I thought that trainings were hard and that we were doing a lot. And then I ended up at Springvale, and it was kind of like being smacked over the head, seeing people like yourself and Shay and Shirl at the time, taking 50 buckets of balls every night in the outfield. So it was a very steep learning curve for me, and I kind of had to scramble around and catch up. But I loved it, and I loved working with Shay on my hitting and, sort of digging into that a bit more and learning much more of the technical aspect of the sport. But I think more than that, it was being around baseball brains, the way that, you guys all thought about the game and, picked apart all the little aspects of it. I think that was probably even more than the physical side of things was, a big jump for me.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Fast forward all these years and just the number one Masters team going around, like, how much fun has it been? We're still trying, the three of us are still trying to play Div 1, and we're hanging on for as long as we can for dear life. But we've played a couple of years at Masters, and personally it's just been so much fun to play with your mates, and the results are relevant. And we have won, which is also fun, but the winnings become irrelevant, and it's, having people like Kat out on the field who hasn't played for a little while, and Huffy coming back. Like, those times now once a year have become super important to me. Like, what's it been like for you guys? And I know, Shannas, you missed obviously the first year because you just had Felix.
Yep.
But have you guys enjoyed that as much as me, and do you look forward to that now every year?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think, you know, a big part of what I miss about baseball now is tournament baseball and going away with a team and, you know, getting to stay somewhere else and get up and go to the field together. I love that. So, yeah, the Masters tournament is sort of a small little compacted version of tournament baseball, and it's so much fun. So much fun. Yeah.
Mine's a bit different because the last 2 Masters we've been to, my family comes along with me, so I don't get a roomie.
You do. You get 3.
But I reckon it's probably the highlight because we play hard all season, and then we have the grand final, and then we have like a week or 2 break, and then we get Masters, and everything goes out the window at Masters. There's no proper swinging. You're swinging at balls above your head so that you don't strike out. And then we somehow get into that grand final, and then all of a sudden we're all competitive again. There's no swinging at balls above your head anymore. You want to win again.
The white line fever
like
comes out.
You just can't get rid of it, can you? Great memories and, you know, fun times to look forward to. A bit of a lineup for us today. We're going to talk about coming into the club, the Taylor Swift eras that you've been involved in, the growth over time. We have to talk about motherhood. I'm going to bring up some photo memories, and then we're going to do our famous quiz, and I'm looking forward to some good answers from you two. You've watched enough now. But coming into the club, Slooney, and you obviously came in that year, played in the 2s for the Springvale team when we started the Berwick Springvale 1s team. And then you were very quickly thrown in the deep end. And I'll say thrown in the deep end because I think at the time you were really focused on the social side of baseball, but you had talent. It was very clear. I won't talk about your swing until a bit later. But you had talent, and you were thrown in with this group of interesting characters. It was such an interesting team. So this was the year after Berwick Springvale where we had a second Springvale team, or the Springvale Pumas. We obviously had Tay over from Adelaide, who was just dominant and just a really cool person and young person to be around all of us. You were quite young there, actually. And obviously Huffy brought a different dynamic, but you got to play with Rissa. Do you have any memories of that season on playing with some of those players? What was that like?
Memories are a bit vague. When you say talent, it was very, very rough. Still am. But I remember that was the first year that Shelley came over, and we became training partners. And I remember we started to train pretty hard and take baseball quite seriously. So having like Rissa over that year, I think that for us, both of us, it improved our baseball 1,000 times. But if I remember correctly, that year we were usually 7, 8, 9 for that year. And I don't know about them, but for me, it was quite interesting being like, I'd probably describe me as the worst player on that team, but it was a packed team. Like if you look at the caliber of the players that we had on that team, it was a good team.
It was. And Shelley's going to come up a little bit later, but can you talk to me a little bit about that friendship and how important that friendship was, and particularly coming in a team like this where there was, you know, at one end there's sort of these superstars who've been around a long time, all played on the Aussie team, played for Japan, and then you and Shelley. And I think, you know, you flicked a switch a little bit there and we're like, hang on, like we want to be better too here and we want to contribute a little bit. I said this to Beto, that team, I think there was an opportunity to inspire other people, and I think you guys took that on board. How important was she on your journey? I know she's not around, but you're still good mates and you still keep in touch. She was pretty impactful for you.
Oh, I reckon that year was probably the most impactful because she really wanted to improve playing at second base. And so she worked really, really hard with Shay every single training session, working on ground balls, her technique and everything. And like I thought to myself, I didn't want to be the liability anymore. So I'd take 1,000 buckets of fly balls every single training with Mick. He'd get me to stand on the side, throw a ball into the air 1,000 times, make sure I caught it with 2 hands above my head. Yeah, no, I reckon if it wasn't for that season, I definitely wouldn't be the player I am now.
That's really cool to hear stuff like that. And then this is, of course, you and your mate Shelley in that photo, and this is after that grand final, so this isn't the same year, this is a couple of years, but this is one of my favourite photos. The light just happened to all be working,
so nice.
And it's such a great photo. And again, so a few different players, and of course when we switched back from 2 teams to 1, you brought Kat back in and you brought Hannah in and Nicole Garner and Kelly Manzi, so suddenly you go from stacked team to stacked team. Pretty amazing memories and amazing people you got to play with. I wanted to bring this photo up because this is the grand final that we've just talked about with the Pumas, where Rissa was out here. And you weren't playing for us then.
No, I was.
But you were on the sideline.
Yep. So
what are your memories of this moment?
So I remember I took a year off. I sort of wanted a bit of a change. I knew I wanted to work harder. After, I think, training with Shay in the lead up to the Venezuela World Cup, and I knew it was sort of the first time that I'd seen what I potentially could be. And I knew that unfortunately I probably wasn't going to get that where I was. So I took a year off and I think I became Springvale's #1 fan. I knew I wanted to end up at Springvale, but I just thought I needed a little bit of time to make that transition. So, yeah, I think I watched pretty much all of your games that season. And, yeah, I just remember having so much fun and, soaking in the way that you guys played and looking at you not as my opposition anymore, and sort of Springvale, unfortunately, because we've been so good for so long, gets a little bit of a bad reputation and the other teams like to really hate on Springvale. So sort of going from that to, becoming a fangirl, it was fun. It was fun following you guys around and watching you all play and watching Rissa play. She's such a good player. It's cool hearing someone's perspective who came from the outside or from another club, because I am a big footy follower and you two I don't think are, but the people listening probably will, so shout out to Kat. I know she listens, but when Hawthorn beat Collingwood last week, trounced them. Sorry, Sandy. But Nick Dacos went over to Luke Bruce and said, how did you win 3 in a row? Like, how on earth did you, people were hunting you and wanting to beat you? And when I listened to that, the first thing I thought was, people don't like us traditionally. And people don't like the people who constantly win because they get bored and it's not fair. And it is hard to be the hunted and be the disliked. And my theories on that has always been, if you can put your head down on your pillow at night and you feel good about the person you are and the things that you do, then I'm okay with that. People can have their opinions, but I just thought that was interesting, hearing your perspective, and I think it's similar with a lot of people who are external, unfortunately. A big shout out to Rissa. We are filming this the day after the article went up, talking about the 5 amazing big cat women who will represent their countries. Shay's kind of Japanese, I guess, at the World Cup in Thunder Bay, and she's just had such a great impact on, you can hear in your voices on YouTube, but on so many people, including myself, and I just wish her the best of luck. Again, it's hard to be the hunted. 6-time World Cup
gold medalists, reigning champions,
Yep.
COVID, you know, a 6-year hiatus from World Cup. It's going to be tough for her, and the other teams are better. So I'm rooting for you, Riss. I know you'll do well, and no matter the result, I know you won't leave any stone unturned. So good luck to Riss. I hope it all goes well. She won't see this until after. But anyway, I was thinking of you, mate. The different eras. I mean, I want to talk about Shay a little bit, but there has been this sort of, I suppose, opportunity for you to be surrounded pretty closely by some really good people who've taken you under their wing. Talk Sloane and I through, and I know Sloane can add to this because Shay's helped her as well along the journey, but talk to me about the relationship and that opportunity for you that's probably like unlike anything anyone else has had the opportunity to go through.
Yeah. Well, I think hands down, Shay's been the most impactful person on my baseball journey. There's no way I would be the player I am today if it wasn't for Shay. She's spent countless hours breaking down my hitting, trying to help me become someone who can contribute with the bat. I started as a pitcher, and hitting was never, ever something that I was even allowed to do at a lot of training. You know, the pitchers would just go run, and you never really got to practice any hitting. So when I came to Springvale, it was really the first time that I'd ever been shown sorry, that's probably a little harsh. I had been shown hitting drills before, but, you know, they were basic.
I think there's a level of investment too.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm really careful when we have these discussions because a lot of the clubs that other players have come from have provided great opportunities and great learnings for their players. But one of the things I think has been different is the level of commitment and investment from different people at different times, whether it's Bill Ray, Greg hitting with Chevy on the tee every week for the season, you know, Mick throwing all the balls to Sloane and EJ Tobias. But Shay, her investment in other people and her own game, I think is, for people externally who think, oh, Shay's great. She's not just great because she's great. In fact, Shay was not a naturally amazing player. She's worked so bloody hard on her hitting. And you two, I think you two would be the first to say you both feel like you're a bit unco as hitters.
Still are.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. And so that investment has just been super important, as you said. So I think it's important to note that.
Yeah. With Shay, she'd been taking time out of her own training time to spend time with us in the cage, doing those training batting drills and just trying to get us to stop doing all the wrong things that we were doing.
That part amazes me too, the fact that she played at a high level for so long and kept doing her work but still found the time. You know, she always found the time and still does.
Yeah.
Moving into and we'll come back to Shay again, but moving into the different eras. So this was your first premiership, Slooney, and that is you. So we told the story last week, and you may not remember this fully, but we told the story with Beto about how we were losing in the 7th inning to Doncaster. 7, 8 and 9 up. We were down and out. I think we all thought the game was probably gone. And you, Beto, Shelley, all get on base. We win. Do you remember that game, or do you remember being part of that? Or what's your...
I do remember that game. I think I played left field, and I remember there was a foul ball just outside, but having that being only my second summer season, I did not have the skills. I remember Shay going, lay out! And I'm like, I don't know how.
What's that?
Oh, yeah. But, I remember that last innings, and I'm like, I can't be the last one out. I can't. So I don't know. I don't remember if it was 3 walks in a row for us, but I remember.
I feel like it might have been a couple of walks and someone on their team made an error.
Okay.
I think we've got the scorebook. We should get that for the 30th anniversary night.
Wow. Dust it off. But yeah, no, I remember just don't swing anything stupid, because I remember I used to swing it once above my head, and I'm like, just don't do anything stupid. This is a grand final. Do not be the last one out.
And guess what? You weren't. And here we are all these years later and you won.
Oh, look at G. She's so little. Baby
Part
G.
of the era. So this was the year after, I believe, and this was 2000. Oh, it must have been 2 years later. So this was 2013, and this is the year before Shannas came over, and we beat Doncaster in the grand final. And thank God, G was hitting. I don't know. She was the best hitter for Doncaster, and their pitcher came out. So Tambers came out of the game. Tambers was still pitching then, and so they brought G out because I feel like was she the DH at the time?
She was their best player.
Anyway,
that day.
she came out, and as soon as she came out, I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." Anyway, we won. And I remember G taking that photo, and Chevy's like, "Get in a photo." She's like, "I'm going to get in trouble." And Chevy's like, "Too bad." And we obviously were great mates with G. We have been for a very long time. And obviously now she's wearing the right uniform and we love her. So shout out to G if you're watching. But again, you and your mate there, you got your water bottle instead of your alcohol, which is probably a good decision after that first event. And then here we are, so all three of us in this photo. So this is the following year, 'cause I think we had a couple of years in a row Super Saturday at the club.
Yeah.
And celebrating. Shannas has got the right drink in her hand there, which is good. Do all of these years just mould into one for you guys, or is that what it feels like when I bring up the photos? Because I feel like that's been the theme for some of the guests that I've had in.
I don't have a good memory. So these all sort of like have been smooshed together.
This is a famous one. This is one of our wins out at Melbourne. So we had a couple of wins out at Melbourne, and Shannas, you were playing in both of these grand finals, and this is when and the last one as well, were part of when we won 6 in a row.
Yep.
In those mid 2000, between 2010, 2017, we won 6 in a row there. And what I loved about this photo, of course, is the different array of players we've got, but then you've got Riza, little Riza, who's now just recently turned 19. Loving the white glasses still in that photo. I'm sure you love that. I did try and Photoshop them out, but it was hard, so I couldn't do it. What are your memories? And I feel like you're going to tell a story later, so don't tell that now, but memories of this team.
Yep.
And it's hard to remember exact teams and times, but what are your memories of this group and this period?
I just remember personally, I remember such anxiety in the outfield, worrying that I was going to drop a ball because, we had this stacked team and everyone could play. And I think Shirl said a few minutes ago that she didn't want to be the liability. That's how I felt in my early seasons.
Were you centre field and were you left field at this time? Or who was playing where?
I think this season I think that might have been my first season in centre field.
Okay.
I won't complain about because...
Yeah, I think that was my first season. And it may not have even been the whole season. I think maybe halfway through we might have swapped over. So, yeah, I just remember feeling anxious that whole game and constantly thinking to myself, excuse my language, but don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up. Like that was my constant dialogue at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any specific players that stood out, like back in those days, and the teams obviously, there's still a couple of us floating around, but do either of you have any memories of playing specifically with any of those girls in that photo? Like, was there anyone that, you felt was influential in your career or at the time, your time at the club?
Yeah, I mean, Shay always has been, but I think that season, I think Cal had a really good season that year, and I just remember loving watching her play, and just trying to somehow turn my awkward body into something that resembled the fluidity that Cal Manzi seemed to, have so naturally. So I think that was a really good season for her, and I just loved watching her play.
Maybe we should have called your episode The Awkward Outfielders or The Unco, no?
Yeah.
Be more accurate. I think that season was one of... We every training we would run around the outfield and we'd take we'd take dozens and dozens of buckets of fly balls until the coaches wouldn't hit them to us anymore.
Yeah.
And it'd just be us two in the outfield
Yep.
until like the sun would set, and they're like, "Okay, no, we can't hit you anymore."
Yeah. And
One more.
I don't know about you, but I think we had this, we're not overly competitive people. Yeah, when we compare ourselves to the Simones and Shays of the world.
Nothing competitive.
But I just remember never wanting to quit before you. So it was like this. I loved training with you because I always wanted to be the last person standing, and I think you were a bit the same. Even though we probably wouldn't admit it as much.
We'd run each other into the ground.
Yeah, it was great.
We were young though, and we could.
And you didn't have kids yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how we got our fitness.
Yeah, and that's how we caught every fly ball that season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Can't do it now.
Which part? The catching all of them or the taking them at training? This is part of the years, and I wanted to highlight one of your great friends, Arbe, because I know how important she is to you in your life. So she now really is just part of our family.
Yep.
Not just a Springvale person or an amazing first baseman or a great left-handed hitter. She's a family member.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like having her on your team, and what was it like having to say goodbye to her?
I mean, as you said, she became our family, and I used to pick Arbe up a lot, so I spent a lot of time in the car chatting with Arbe, and she's just one of the kindest, most generous people I've ever met in my life. The things that she would say to me, she warms my heart. That's when I think of Arbe, I feel such warmth and love for her. And saying goodbye to her, I think particularly because we all knew how much she wanted to stay. It was really, really hard. And I think I probably think about her weekly. Nearly every time I step onto the field, I think about Arbe, and I wish that she was there.
Yeah, same. Great memories. And I love this photo. So this was not last season, but the season before. And we are going to talk about motherhood in a minute. But I love the photo, because it's just everyone's so happy. And, of course, you're happy when you win. But I think, we are all getting a little bit older. So trying to hang on and trying to win a couple towards the end of our career, that one was just, it felt special. And, of course, I interviewed the kids last week, and that was Balin's first ever Division 1 premiership. And
has she got the tattoo yet?
That comes up in the episode.
Okay.
You'll have to watch.
Yep.
She has not. But Lil BT up the back, and just such a fun group of players. And Arfie and Charlotte and Reese down the front, and it sort of, and then Bondi up the back with G. It just, I think, epitomises that the team is now a team that's way more than 9 players. It's all the extended family. It's Benny and Trent, and it's everyone, and it's so cool. And I love this photo, and I wanted to share that. What do you guys think when you see that shot?
G's sad every time she sees that photo. She chucked the shits in there.
She
She's
cracked
off to
it
the side.
and refused to come in it.
Yeah, no, that picture makes me happy.
It really does. It's such a great photo.
It is.
I can see, Sloon, you're like, come on, G.
I
She
tried.
wouldn't. I know. We all tried and it didn't work. Shanna's thoughts?
I said it before with Arbe, it's family. Like, you look at that and, that's your second home. That's your second group of people you can rely on, and, you could pretty much go to any one of the people on that screen and probably not quite the kids yet, but I'm sure in future, and ask them for anything really, and they'd help you out. So it's
Arfie
a real
would
sense
try.
of comfort.
He would try. He'd hit a ball for you.
Yeah.
The other person, just before we move on, is I want to ask you both about Kat, and you've both known Kat for a long time.
Yep.
In different sort of environments, but she left and was off doing her own thing for a while, and she'd finished up playing, you know, started her own business, got married, did all those cool things in life, and then got the itch to come back and be involved. Obviously isn't playing but coaching. But how cool has it been for you two to have her back in the program? So this was the first year she came back and coached. Obviously she's been back 2 years and won 2 flags, so that must be her. But what's it been like, Catherine, being back in the fold?
When I heard the news, I was ecstatic. I've always liked Kat. When I first came to the club, she couldn't stand me. But
She thought you were annoying.
they all did. Chevy too. But over the years, just through baseball and everything, common love for baseball and everything.
Brings you together, doesn't it?
Exactly. But yeah, no, definitely call her my mate now. And yeah, no, just love having her around. She's fun. She's always trying to learn more about baseball. Yeah, no, just definitely adds extra.
Yeah, I think she's been such a great addition to our program in that leadership coaching role. She's so different now, but she's still the same Kat. So I think she, you know, all the things we love about Kat, the passion and the competitive nature and the funniness, you know, she's kept all that, but you know, now she's got this, I don't know, it's almost like a sense of calm. So even though she's passionate and gets really excited, you know, she's much more grounded now, and you know, it really.
Celine, you're gonna have to turn the light on.
Where?
At the door. The push button, not the switch. Happens every time. We won't edit that out. We'll leave that in for the viewers.
Yeah, no, I just think she's been so great to have back, and such a fantastic influence on the younger generation of Springy kids who didn't know her as a player.
Yeah.
And I think they've all loved having her around and getting to know her.
They absolutely have. Growth. I wanted to include growth, and we've already talked a little bit about Shay. But I wanted to ask you more specifically about your hitting, because you've already talked a bit about, you know, the commitment investment Shay's made and how you tried to, and you went through a season where you won the best and fairest. You won the Bill Ray Trophy, which I know was a highlight for you, and you helped us win that grand final. You had the best season ever, and then you came out the next year, and I think you were like, cool, now I'm a really good hitter.
Yeah.
And then you were brought back down to earth really quickly, like we all are with hitting.
Yeah.
Because it humbles us very quickly, except if you're Shay or Bron.
Yeah.
And what was that period like for you? Was that really difficult, and how did you find ways to get through that?
Yeah. My memory's a little different, and maybe I have rewritten it. But I feel like I might have had 2 seasons there where I hit quite well.
I'll check the stats.
So I feel like I remember Shay saying to me, you know, it's really hard to back up a good season, and you did, so might have to check your facts there. No, but it's, God, hitting's so hard. It's so hard, and baseball for me has always been a roller coaster, and there's such highs and then such lows, and I think the challenge for me has always been trying to find consistency in the middle, because I have had really high highs and really, really low lows. I'm not known to be an overly consistent hitter. So, you know, that's always been an ongoing battle for me, in my self-talk and natural negativity with my hitting capabilities has sort of taken over a lot of the time. But, you know, having Shay there, you know, I sort of feel like Shay's constantly, you know, on my shoulder, telling me that, you know, hitting's hard. You need to believe in yourself, and you can do it, and, you know, stop telling yourself that you can't, because you can. So, yeah, I think she has kind of become my, probably a little bit of both angel and demon on my shoulder. The voice I hear in my head with hitting is pretty much always Shay's. Yeah.
That's really interesting, and I'm thinking at the moment, as you tell this story, of the struggles that I went through coaching you, and we've talked about this publicly before, so I'm gonna say it on the air.
Yep.
But when you were selected in 2010 to go to Venezuela, I was very surprised and questioned why you were picked.
I think
and you won a
everyone
silver
did.
medal.
Yep.
Well done.
Yep.
But I was questioning it because I'm like, well, this chick throws 70 whatever, but she can't hit the side of a barn. And your career has been almost the opposite of me.
Yeah,
So
it has. Yep.
Sorry, you've had an amazing career. Don't get me wrong, but it's been this tug of war between being amazing, but then maybe not being able. And I've sort of been in the middle, but I was never able to throw really hard or necessarily hit like you did. I remember coaching you, and just coaching you actually helped me a lot because I was trying to figure out, well, how can you just not do it?
Yeah.
Like pitching's so easy. How can you just not throw it down the middle? Like just throw it there.
Yep.
And I remember kicking you off the mound once. I don't know if you remember this, but it was at Blackburn Baseball Club. And I was pitching coach for the Vic team. And we were like doing a drill, and you just kept throwing it into the back net. And I said, just get off. I tried to help, and I was like, get off. And you're like, what do you mean? I said, get off the ground. I can't deal with this. Like, you need to just go. So that was a very interesting time. But you helped me, I think, try to understand through a different lens how difficult the game can be and how complex it can be, and how 90% of it really is up here and not the physical side of it. Do you want to add to that story with your perspective, or are you happy with my...
Well, firstly, you're welcome. Yeah, I don't know. I've always found it really, really hard. I love pitching more than anything. I love standing on the mound so much. And I've always felt this like desperation in my gut to pitch and pitch well. And when I have those moments, like, you know, once in a blue moon where I throw a bullpen and I can hit every spot, like that is just the best. And, you know, sometimes you walk off going, okay, got it. I've got it.
Sounds
Yay.
like me in BP.
Yeah, and then I come out the next time and I just cannot locate anything, and I feel like I'm doing everything the same. And, you know, for me, it's always been the same with hitting. You know, I'll have a great round of BP, and then 2 minutes later I'll go up and take another round, and it's horrible. And I've always really, really struggled to understand my body and how it moves, and I don't feel things in my body well. So again, Shay's been really helpful with that and getting me to be a little more connected. But yeah, maybe I'm just not a natural athlete and I just don't have that brain-body connection. But the game's always been really hard for me. Yeah. And I've always had to work hard to produce. Yeah.
We could do a montage of all the Shay, Simone, Flan post-grand final photos. Talking about growth, and you've been pretty honest, Sloan, that you came in and you sort of, baseball for you was a bit of an outlet where you could go hang out with people and stuff around a little bit, and, you know, training was whatever. And then you started to realise, okay, well, no, I actually want to get better. I'm going to commit more of my time. And you went on to play several years in the Vic team and contributed. And this is one of my favourite all-time tournaments that I've ever been involved in for a few reasons, but obviously that's the Big Cats contingent. Do you remember where this was, and do you remember anything about that week?
Freezing our asses off at Ballarat.
Do you remember the dance-off?
Oh, in onesies with Amy.
Yeah.
I blocked it out.
Yeah, I would block that out too if I was you. Memories of this tournament and playing for Victoria and sort of getting to a point where you could put yourself in that position?
If I remember correctly, I was a rookie, so I remember carrying all the balls everywhere, and I remember being very cold. Ooh, standing at left field and having the sprinklers turn on mid-game.
Sounds like women's baseball.
Freezing midair, probably.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember very, very cold. But, that was my first ever nationals. So spending a lot of time on the bench, cheering on everyone. But if I remember correctly, that final, we were down by so much. It was a very high-scoring game. Mm-hmm. And then I think you brought me off the bench into the game, and then for some reason we started a rally. Mm-hmm.
It was the coach's mid-game motivational speech that did it. I think it was something like, it's women's baseball. We score bunches of runs like this all the time. Let's just go score a heap and win. Okay. And then we did, and we won. So I'm taking a lot of credit there. it was a great group of players and obviously a great little crew of springy girls involved. And of course, Huffy and I got to coach together, and that was away from Springy the only time we did coach together. Oh, this is a great photo.
Thanks.
This is what happens when you...
This is what happens when you train really hard. I haven't seen my body look like that for a long time.
This is what happens when you're trying to do the PowerPoint really late in the piece.
Yeah.
But
cool.
And so I won't
Thank
leave it on that
so
for
much.
too long for you. But I do want to, and we have to talk about it while Sloan and I are celebrating another premiership. You, of course, went to Venezuela. We've talked about that already. Won a silver medal. Probably weren't in the best place physically or mentally to play at that level.
Nope, definitely not.
Came back, took some time off, ended up at Springy, did a lot of work on your hitting, and then, you'd had shoulder surgery.
Yep.
We're told not to ever pitch again.
Yep.
And we're all told these things and then we still do it.
We
So
ignore them.
you then started to sort of get back into it, and you found your love of it again, and you found yourself onto the World Cup team to go to Florida 2018. Yep. Talk us through that journey and what it was like to get back to sort of your prime and wear the Australian uniform again.
Well, I never thought I would. Certainly not as a pitcher. For a brief moment there after those 2 seasons of fairly good hitting, I thought maybe I could, push to make the Aussie team as an outfielder. Very, very quickly realised that I was not up to scratch in terms of international hitting. But to be honest, I don't even remember how I started pitching again. I honestly don't remember.
Stumbled onto the mound suddenly.
Yeah, I must have just come into a Springy game once. I know that my shoulder always hurt for my entire life. Either my elbow or my shoulder hurt. Like, I remember a game having to, basically vomit off the back of the mound because I was in so much pain. And then, coming to Springy and not pitching at all, doing lots and lots of long toss. It was kind of the first time that I'd done proper arm care and TheraBand and, really good long toss consistently. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden my arm didn't hurt anymore. And so I think I must have just started throwing bullpens just for fun and realised that I could, to some degree, still do it. I think, it was so fun to me to just be able to pitch again. And, making that 2018 team, being around, I love being around some of those girls. Shout out to Tani, it's just so much fun being around other baseball brains and people who love the game. And so I think at that period of my life where I was, early 30s, very aware that I'm coming to the end of, the possibility of playing that level, getting to spend time with people like Tani and Chelsea Falcon. That was a really big thing for me. Obviously, I wanted so much to play and to win at the World Cup, but I think being around those girls again was, a really big thing. And again, another huge shout out to Rissa. I spent a huge amount of time working with Rissa. Luckily, she was in the country, working with the Adelaide girls. I got to go over to Adelaide a couple of times and, do lots of really, really in-depth one-on-one stuff with Rissa and,
And you must say you went on to pitch. So that 2018 season, we had Yuki come over as our import. And I think a lot of us thought she'd pitch a lot of innings. I was really busy with the Aussie Spirit softball team in the lead up to Tokyo, so I was sort of a little absent. And then Yuki didn't pitch. She played third base. And so Shay asked you to pitch. Shay was coaching. And you threw that grand final. So that's the only grand final you've pitched for Springvale.
Yep.
And it was a win at Footscray against a really good, I think probably the best Footscray team that they've ever had. And they were a good team. And we were worried. And we won that game. And that was the 6th victory. We lost the next year to Essendon, of course, famously, as we know. But very cool. Yeah. Pretty cool story. And then, Slooney, this photo, we're talking about growth. So we've come all this way from 2010 through to 2023. This photo was taken. And you've gone from being that player who socialises, stuffs around, the player who worked really hard, the player who didn't want to be the liability, to the last couple of seasons in particular. And in between, by the way, which we'll mention in a minute for motherhood, you missed some seasons through having kids. You went to the twos because you couldn't really commit to training and your body maybe wasn't quite up to it yet. The last 2 seasons, you've literally been one of our best hitters. On base average in the top 3. Both of those seasons, and a batting average in the top 10 for the league, I believe, last season. How cool is it for you now to be you're one of the contributors? I mean, you're hitting, I think, 5 or 6 in the lineup, like you're up towards the top of the order, and you've become a player now we rely on to get on and to help us score runs. What's that been like for you? Because it's a different role.
Well, I will admit, I prefer being in the lower order.
Too bad.
No pressure. But it is nice to be in the middle order because I am contributing. Don't know how. Just stick the bat out and somehow it gets in some space. But I'd attribute that to all those years of hard work, all those hours that everyone's spent with me. Now that it just, I wouldn't call it natural, not a natural swing, but it works now, and so I'm thankful that I'm able to be one of those regular contributors in the team, and it feels good.
Yeah, I bet. That's really cool. We had to talk about motherhood because we have got 2 mothers in the room, and I love this photo. G was in this one. She's
always holding the kids.
She is, because she is the big kid. But G was in this one, and this was obviously the flag at Essendon from, this is a few years ago now. But talk me through baseball post having kids. Like, I was trying to explain this to someone in one of the podcasts that now I've got a little boy, a beautiful little boy at home. Like, baseball for me is still, like, it's so important in my life, but it's not now. Like, it is, but it's not. And so marrying that together and trying to figure out how that works, I'm still, and I'm sure Shannas will mention it, I'm still trying to figure it out because I know I can't commit the time and the energy and the space in my brain to how I used to baseball. But it's still important, I think, in my life and for me as a person to have baseball. I want you to both talk me through what the game is like now that you have people reliant on you and little people that you love at home that are your priority.
I think baseball for me is an outlet that I can go and do for a couple hours each week where I don't have to worry about the kids or anything to do with
your 3 kids.
Essentially, yes. But I can just, I get onto the field and I don't have to worry about that stuff. My mind's all on baseball, and it's an outlet, and it allows me to stay sane. 2 hours running around training, then those 2.5 hours, or 3.5 hours on the weekend, yeah. Without baseball, I think I'd go crazy. But I love doing it, and the kids, it shows the kids that you can have a life outside of like family and stuff. Well, baseball is family, and so the kids, they love coming to baseball. They get to run around with the other kids. They get to see that girls can play baseball and that we're good. But yeah, I just, it's cool.
Oh, similar. It's certainly an outlet, particularly with such a young son. It's so full on at this period, and I'm sure it is going forward as well. But, the attention that an 18-month-old requires, it basically takes up all your time and energy. So being able to go to training and play baseball and just have that space where you can sort of look after yourself and think about yourself, it's very refreshing. I think we have the additional difficulty that we both want to train and play at the same time. So, that's been a challenge for us, and it will continue to be. But like you said, baseball is really important for both of us. So we'll find a way to make it work.
Yep. While we're talking about motherhood, in particular for you, Shannas, I wanted to bring up you and some of your kids. And I'll take Hannah out of it a little bit, although Hannah probably is a little bit of a kid that you've helped along the way, and she talked about that relationship the other night. But Aspen, for you, you've played a pretty integral role in her development and just being around and maybe showing her the way a little bit. And I know Emily and Maddie Patrick in particular, and BT more recently, you've sort of taken under your wing and you've done quite a bit of work with Gab. And talk me through that role of sort of, moving into your mid-30s and having your own kid, but also helping our kids. Yeah. Is that something you love to do? Or? Yeah,
I do. I love to do it one-on-one. I sort of stepped into a coaching role when I stopped playing, sort of after back surgery and, throughout having Felix. And, coaching a group is probably not my strongest asset, but I love chatting to individuals one-on-one, in particular, the younger age group. And for me, it's not really about baseball. I like talking to them about life through baseball. So, I think team sport can teach you so many things about life and about resilience and, committing to something. And so I've really enjoyed being able to have those sort of conversations, but, using baseball to sort of soften a lot of those life lessons, I guess. So I love the kids at our club. They're not kids anymore, but, it's so nice having that generation around.
They'll always be called the kids. There's not a lot of photos of baby Felix floating around on social media, but there is this one. And this one's...
He's happy.
He is happy. He's not sleeping, but he's happy. That's one thing. But I wanted to put this photo up because you're both there, of course. So the club in itself, outside of you guys playing and the different eras you've been through and the growth and the playing and the premierships, the club has become important, really important to both of you. You're both involved in other things, and this was the gala day for Diamond Girls last year, and we had a great day, a great turnout with 80 girls from the local community. How important, and Sloan sort of mentioned it, but I want to ask you both, how important it is for your kids to see the things you do, whether you're playing or whether you're helping the younger people or whether they're seeing you entrenched in giving back to the community. Is that an important part of the club and the program?
Yeah, well, in this day and age, I'm trying to limit the amount of time the kids spend sitting in front of the couch watching the TV and stuff. So come summer, we're at baseball as much as possible. They both play Tiny Tots on a Wednesday night. They run around for a bit with their friends. Arfie's involved in the actual baseball. Gigi just turns up.
She socialises.
Yes, yeah. She's very social. And then on the weekends, they're at baseball as well, running around. Arfie's watching. Gigi's playing as usual. But I'm just trying to give back as what I can. I don't think I'll ever be a coach. So when it comes to like gala days and that sort of stuff, just trying to help out where I can.
Yeah.
But just trying to teach the kids that it's good to be involved in community stuff, especially our baseball community, because it's very important. And the connections that we're making are essentially lifelong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely they are.
I probably haven't thought about Your question was around showing Felix what it's like to be involved. He's so young that I haven't really thought about it that way before. But, certainly when I do think about it, as Shirl said, I think it's so important for him to learn that, when there are things in life that have given you things or people that have given you a lot, you need to give back. And, being involved in things like this, particularly like the Diamond Girls, it's such an important program. And, like I mentioned before, it's about life skills, really. It's not just about baseball. So, yeah, I think it's...
And how cool that one day he'll see this photo and he's surrounded by all these amazing women who, are giving back and part of the community and part of the club. And I just think that's really cool. You just before we go, I heard a rumour you're coaching at the Melbourne tournament that's upcoming. Is that is that true or is it a rumour?
I may have...
You're locked in. Great. So you're coaching.
Assistant coaching with
Assistant coaching, yeah. So you're in. Another great event for the community. But Shannas, you talked about too, you obviously had back surgery and couldn't play for a little while, and you decided to help out coaching. And at that time you were coaching with Shay and then came out of that and did a bit of coaching with Chevy and myself and Kat. Was that important for your growth, do you think, as a player and a person? What are some of the things you learnt during that time?
I learnt I am not good at speaking to groups, but I think it was good for me to push through that discomfort anyway. And I think I see the game differently now. I'm not just focused on my little piece and how I can contribute, but you sort of see it as a more bigger
holistic,
picture. Yeah. So I've actually noticed, back playing last season, I just thought about things differently and could see the game a little differently. And, I would sort of think about all the other players as well and what they were doing. So I think, it certainly helped my mental game.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Slooney, this is a very cool photo. And I wanted to highlight this one because I actually did want to talk about your amazing husband. And we try and tell him often, he cops it sometimes, we give him a bit of grief, but we also do try and remind him, he's been amazing for you and he's been amazing at the club. I know he's preparing to do some babysitting for me, so Benny, he's nearly ready to be handed over. Not quite, but nearly. But talk to me about how great it's been to have that support, because if Benny wasn't putting his hand up to do all the things he does, which of course he's a father of your two beautiful kids and he should, but he does a lot for you and he is absolutely your number one fan and he's the reason you're still playing. Talk me through how important that is for you, and you can send a shout out to him as well.
He is probably the main reason why I'm still able to play. He is good.
What's cool about Benny is that, and I'll tell this story, I can see you getting a little bit emotional, and I love that the memories like this should make us a little bit emotional. I'm getting a bit emotional. But I came to your house, so a few years now, Shannas and I came over, and one of the main reasons, again, we drink responsibly at this club, but Benny invited us over to drink red wine, notably Shannas, because she loves a glass of red or two. And we came over for a glass of red wine and some pizza and hang out with the kids. But Lily Kavanagh, who was one of our key outfielders, great, amazing part of our club and one of our great players, was going overseas. We already knew. And I wanted you'd played in the twos for a few years, and I wanted you to come back and play. And you'd sort of, I'm Denard, no, probably not going to do it. Oh, all too hard, got two kids. And I remember sitting at your dining table at the time. It's probably a bit different now because your house has been renovated. And I said, okay, so let's cut to the chase here. I want you to play. And you said, well, I'm not. It's all too hard. And Benny said, no, it's not. Do you remember this? Sinead does.
Yeah.
Benny said, it's not too hard. Oh, we'll make it work. I'll help you. And here we are. So, Benny Bull, you're just a champion. Look how happy he is. Oh, my goodness.
He loves baseball.
He's just such a great supporter. And not just of you, but all of us.
Oh, no,
he comes up to me still after games. Wig, oh, my God, that was so cool what you did. Oh, my God, I just love it. Oh, I love baseball and you're just the best. And, he's our biggest supporter. He really is. So, shout out to Benny. And a shout out to Celia. She probably won't. Oh, she might watch this because it's your episode. But Celia's the reason that we can still play.
Yeah.
We've got great supporters in our corner, but without Celia committing every Saturday to being at the game and looking after Felix, we wouldn't be playing, or at least one of us wouldn't, and that would be rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. So thank you, Celia.
And that would end badly. So, Seals, you are really, really appreciated and loved, and it's not just from Sinead and I, it's from all of us, as Shirl said. So to you guys, and I've mentioned Trent already, but to all the great people who are supporting everyone to still stay out there, I think it's pretty amazing what you do.
Thank you to all the husbands and partners.
And partners and everyone. Some photos before we get to our quiz, because I know you both got to get back to your children now that we mentioned the kids.
I'll be back.
One more time, Sloan. The mates that we've created, we talk about all these amazing relationships and the mateship. Of course, Shannas, you've created this really cool relationship with BT.
Yeah.
Both outfielders, slightly different ages, but she really looks up to you and always has, which I think is really cool. And you've sort of taken her under your wing. Talk me through that relationship, because that's still, blossoming.
Yeah.
And what's it been like to have BT become a more prominent figure in that group?
I think she is such a great teammate. She probably wouldn't realise the impact that she has on everyone, but she breaks out in dance and song, and she's got such great dry humour, and she just brings this lightness to our team. And BT, I hope you realise how important that is. It's been so great getting to know her. I just think she's the best. And I'm looking forward to the future, because, I've sort of haven't really been able to commit much over the last couple of years where BT's sort of come through. So I feel like I've neglected her a little bit and probably haven't, been around or helped her as much as I would have liked to. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know her even better and working with her more.
When I quizzed her last week in her podcast, she talked about how she feels like she can bring a vibe.
Yep,
and I think that was a great way of putting it.
Yep.
And she talked about how the first time she got to play in the outfield in the same game as you was one of the highlights of her life, basically. Yep. So it's a really cool little relationship there. And then Slooney, of course, Jacko, amongst other people, has been on your journey for quite some time, and obviously a link through Monash and a few other things. But talk me through some of the other friendships. We've talked a lot about Shelley, and you mentioned Scoop, but obviously Jacko's been one. But how important are those relationships for you now if you look back on it?
They're everything, even you two. No matter what, you can call on you guys and you'll answer.
Bit of a longer drive, but...
Definitely a longer drive. Oh, Jacko's pretty far out now.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, she came on the wedding cruise. Jacko's been there she's been at the club longer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I did drag her over to Monash, and then I stopped playing. So she's a bit filthy with me on that. But, all the relationships we've built at Springvale, they're all so important, and I don't know where we'd be if we didn't have them.
Yep. I just put this up because it was one of my favourite photos, and I took that photo. And that was, we don't want to talk about that grand final, but it was a great...
Waverley?
Yeah, it was a great
post photo.
moment.
Yeah.
And BT had a couple of really good hits in that game. And then this one, just because I'm picking out photos that I think are pretty amazing. And this is, of course, last season, the season just gone. From an outfielder's perspective, and Sloan, you played a bit of third, but you both predominantly outfield. What was it like watching Sawagami dominate from there? Like, were you guys bored because you didn't get a lot of...
I didn't mind it at all.
I always want the ball to come to me now. Quite the opposite to my first few years at Springy, where I was hoping it would go anywhere but towards me. That aspect of it was not as fun. But, in centrefield, you get like the best view ever, and the command and the dominance that Sawa had. Like, I'm not sure I've seen a season from a pitcher like that before. It was so much fun to watch, and I feel really, really privileged that, I got to, get front row seats to a season like that. She was amazing.
Mm.
Yeah, no, not bored at all. A little bit further out, but I spent the entire game just watching her pitch, waiting for her to strike out the next one and seeing how she would beat the next player.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And it's so cool as an outfielder to be able to, watch Chevy call a pitch and set herself up and then be able to move into that spot and knowing that the pitcher was actually going to throw it where it was called. So as an outfielder, it made my job so much easier because I could position myself and, be really confident that I was in the right spot.
Just on seasons of sort of dominance, and you two both knew Bron before she came to Springy for her first season last year, but talk me through what it was like. I'm interested because you both you were both training as well. What was it like seeing how she went about things at training, but then seeing how she performed? I mean, for me, that was a highlight. If you're talking highlights of last year, Sawagami and then Bron's influence and how her in the team environment as a teammate and then how she performed. What were you two? What were the thoughts of you two on Bron?
I found myself spectating a lot. Some of the plays that she made, and everything she does. Just even the way she runs the bases, like everything is just so nice to watch. She does everything.
Her hitting,
her glove work. Like I found myself in the outfield watching, and then going, oh shit, I need to back up. And watching her at training, coming back from having Felix and back surgery, I can't really do the things that I used to do physically yet. So watching her, I felt such jealousy that my body couldn't do. Like I just wanted to do everything
just so
she was doing.
smooth. Yeah. She'd gather the ball and then have time to just ease, like compose herself and then toss the ball. Yep. Plenty of time. It looked easy.
Just plays I've never seen anyone make. And I was at third
and I know
thinking,
it wasn't easy.
Oh my God, how is she getting to that? Like it was probably mine.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get to it. But how is she? And she's not getting to it. She's getting people out.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Again, you had Arbe in a photo earlier, but some of the best times I think for you, Shannas, have been off the field and been creating memories with some of your mates. And I know Val played an important role in that for a number of years, and obviously there's Arbe there too, but your relationship with Mitchie growing up, so, historically the two aunties, I was Rise's main auntie.
Favourite, yep.
And you were Mitchie's main auntie, but you sort of, your career when you started, that's sort of when Val came back and started to play, and you created this great relationship with Val and the kids, and just tell me what that was like.
That was so cool. I've not really sought out any sort of relationship with children before. I don't gravitate towards children, but something about Mitch and Ryan, they're infectious, their personalities and their love for the game and their love for us, and, they had such a beautiful way of embracing us and bringing us into their family, and it was a really lovely period to be around them and to be involved in their lives, and it was a delight to be around them.
All grown up, so Shay talked about training in the high performance program with Mitch. He's about to go and represent Australia in Australian squad overseas. Rises obviously just turned 19, and life happens, and you sort of people go their own ways and there's other things in their life. But a shout out to Val and the boys. Ryan and Mitch, we talk about you often.
And we follow you all the time.
We're following what you're doing, and we miss you, but we think about those times often and how great they were. And so a big shout out to Mitchie, Ryan, and to Val. I hope you guys are well.
Oh no,
Slooney, you early on particularly, you really did try and invest in. You wanted to be one of the girls, and you had, we went after it pretty hard after grand finals, in general, but notably after grand finals. Shay did try and sort of push a few drinks into you, I think, because she liked the entertainment. Did you enjoy, for you, was at the start in particular, was that an important part for you because maybe you weren't the contributing player that you are now? Was the social part of it more important for you then, or... Talk me through what it was like,
I think the drinking was possibly me trying to fit in. But I'm more mature now, and I've stopped doing that to myself. But at the same time, we were trying to celebrate our successes on the field, and as the unco one in the team. It meant that a little bit more because I was still contributing. But yeah, definitely not doing that anymore.
And there's Shelley in that photo as well. Both in the club rooms, different nights. Shanna's one thing I wanted to bring up too, because one of the names that's come up, and she played for the very famous Berwick Springvale team when we won that premiership. She didn't play in the premiership, but she was part of that team and became such a great part of our family. A story a lot of people wouldn't know is that you obviously went to Venezuela. Barky was part of that team where you won the silver medal. But she spent a New Year's in New Zealand. Yeah, so you're a Kiwi.
She did. I'm a Kiwi.
For those
She's
who can't
a Kiwi.
hear the accent.
It's still there.
Barky is also a Kiwi, and she came over randomly. Messaged you, hey, I'm coming for New Year's. You're like, okay, and that's her and you doing a shot on
Cowboys?
New Year's.
Yep, they were the Cowboys.
And that is you guys' New Year's dinner at the dinner table. I've sat at that table. Shout out to Louise, Baz and Zach. Talk me through that relationship and how cool it was for you to spend time with Barky, the baseballer, but then the person.
Yeah. I mean, as you said, I just got this random text message. I think I must have posted something on Facebook about being in New Zealand, and I got a random text. I didn't even have her number on my phone. And it was just like hey, I'm in NZ too. What doing for New Year? And I was like, hey, who dis? But yeah, so I was staying at my dad's house, and I remember saying, hey, Dad, on the way up to Auckland, can we stop and pick up one of my friends? And he was like, sure. And so, we stopped at this random location, picked up Barky, and I took her to my family New Year. My family and Barky are very similar. Lots of craziness. So she fit in beautifully, and every New Year we still talk about her and we still reminisce, and, she was there for 3 days. But, she genuinely felt like part of our family. She taught my auntie Louise to do long distance swimming, and, Louise still does that now, and she credits that to Barky. It's become such a really important part of her life to get out into the ocean and just swim. So Barky also had just come back from 2 broken legs. Oh. She wasn't meant to be walking much, and my auntie's house is on a cliff, and there's a little private beach at the bottom of that cliff, and Barky was determined that she was going to walk up and down that cliff every day, and she did. She just, she was so determined. Nothing really stopped her. And my cousin Zach, shout out to Zach, funniest human on the planet. So him and Barky together is just one of the most, memorable experiences, like the banter, and, they're 2 of the funniest people I've ever met. So that was a really special time, and I'm so glad I have those memories.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We're nearly up to our quiz. I just wanted to just finish on, these are from this recent grand final, so obviously Slooney waiting for a ball that I don't think ever came.
No.
and Shanna's had a difficult season with the bat and then came through when it mattered in the grand final, or in both the finals actually. You're still loving baseball. You're both in different periods of your life and your career, and potentially your body doesn't do or allow you to do what it used to. But I feel like there's still a competitiveness in you guys that you want to continue to drive and get better as much as the body will allow. What are your thoughts coming into pre-season starts in about 3 weeks? What are your thoughts? Have you started thinking about training again, or tell me where you're at?
I've been rowing since May. I didn't want to let myself go. That and being a little bit older now, can't let myself go, otherwise I definitely won't be prepared for the season coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, essentially I've been wanting to just get fit so that I can still chase down those balls in the outfield, because I want to be in the outfield. Not third.
I can see that in your face. Yeah.
That and like, Gigi tells me all the time, "Oh, mummy, you run so fast." I'm like, "No, I don't. I really, really don't." But let's try and slow down the loss of speed. But yeah, no, I think the thoughts are just, for as long as I can, I want to keep playing at the level that we have been playing, which it isn't as high as it used to be, because we're all older. I think that that mentality of we need to win at all costs has sort of we've lost that, but we're still competitive and we're playing to have fun.
We still love to win, but it's not the end of the world if...
No, we want to have fun while we're winning.
Yeah.
And if winning without that fun, then it's not really what we want anymore.
Yeah.
That and we want to give the younger generation something to beat, especially in our 2s and 3s. Give the young'uns something to aim for and try and push us out of our positions.
Yeah. Spot on.
I don't think my brain's caught up to my body yet. I still want to be the best I can be. I still think I can get better. I haven't really come to terms with the fact that I probably won't ever be as good as I was. I still want to be better than I have ever been. So I'm not sure if that's a little naive, or, if there's still that little bit left in the tank for me. My biggest issue is going to be training and actually getting on the field, given we live in the country now. So, yeah.
I think the location's less concerning than the challenge of the
Your
beat.
backyard's big enough for you to take fly balls.
Yeah.
And you got a fly ball hitter right there.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this season a lot and trying to work out the logistics. So I've been going through lots of scenarios. But it's all I think about at the moment.
How do I make it happen?
Yeah.
I think too, the key, and one of the things I talked to about Shay a lot, and you guys probably listen, was you have to go through that period of coming to terms with the fact that maybe you'll never be as good as you were, but you can still contribute and you can still be better than you were the day before or the week before. Yep. So there's still elements of, I still think the best player I can be has not happened yet.
Yep.
It's just a different time of my life and my career, but I think you guys are probably on the same page. I'm looking forward to seeing you at pre-season training. This is our famous quiz, 30 and 5, which it's never in 5, but we'll try and keep it short because I know you've both got things to do. Favourite on-field memory, if you have one? These are difficult questions. I've come to know that.
I have one.
Terrible memory.
Mine, you had a photo up before, and I think you told me not to go into detail because I think you already knew it was my favourite on-field memory, but that grand final at Melbourne.
2015?
Yeah. I think 2014, 15.
14, 15
Yep.
or 15, 16.
You had pitched in the twos already. I'm assuming you'd come back from another knee episode. And we were playing Doncaster. We'd been winning the whole game, and I think we'd been winning by quite a lot initially, and so I certainly had relaxed a little. You never think that you've got it in the bag, but I was feeling pretty confident. And then it took a bit of a turn for the worse, and they were catching us very quickly. So you came into pitch after pitching in the twos, and you had a pitch limit. I think you were only allowed to throw 40 pitches.
So I think you could throw 40 in each, but no more. Yeah.
And you'd thrown 39 in the twos.
Yeah.
So, when you'd come on, you could hear like these whispers like, is she allowed? And, people were checking the scorebook and like it was...
Checking the rules.
Yeah, my anxiety level was creeping.
But we knew the rules.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, sorry. So the coaches knew the rules.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Shay was the coach.
And so, Doncaster were sort of catching up to our scoreline pretty quickly. And I think you only had like maybe 2 or 3 pitches left to get the third and final out. And so I think that for me, that elation when, you got that final out was, that's probably one of the best feelings I've had while playing for Springvale.
Yeah. That was a fun game.
Yeah. And now it's known as the Simone Wern rule. You can't pitch in 2 games anymore. So
You're
well
welcome.
done.
You're welcome.
I don't think I have one. They're all good. Just being being on the field.
It is a hard question, and I'm not sure I could answer it. Favourite off-field memory, if there is one?
Shall I go again?
Yep.
Mine, and there are many, but I'll just pick this one. That season when obviously I never got to play with Rissa, which is one of my biggest regrets. But she was in the country during the grand final where we beat Footscray, and I was lucky enough to pitch. And I think having her there on the sidelines, really supporting the team and me in particular, giving me tips and advice and encouragement between innings, stretching me because my hips were getting tight. And then, going back to our club rooms and having her there and having her hit us ground balls at midnight, like that was, it was just the best.
That's a great memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my favourite, but a memory just popped up of, I think it was the presentation night of when you guys were doing Springvale Berwick team. Mm-hmm. I remember getting a text from you saying that presentation night was done and you guys needed a ride. And I'd just gotten my P's and I had like a little Corolla. And so I drove down to Berwick to the
it's the Fountain Gate
Hotel. Yes. And I think a dozen of you jumped down the stairs and I think 9 of you piled into the car.
Yeah, a couple in the boot.
Hightower in the boot with...
There's 2 people in the boot. I don't remember who was in. Was Hightower in the boot? How'd she fit in the boot?
I don't know, but I recall like 2 people in the front seat. There was a whole bunch of people in the...
We had a lot of people there and we had to get them all to... We went to 1422 first, I think, and they wouldn't let us in, so we went to the Lava Lounge.
But I remember driving on the way there, getting to a roundabout, and then the cops pulling up on the other side of the roundabout, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got like a dozen people in the car, 2 people in the boot, and I'm on my P's. Act normal.
You are very anxious historically about rules and regulations, so I understand that would have been difficult, but thank you in advance. There was I don't think Uber existed back then.
No.
So you needed your mates to come and pick you up.
I was designated driver.
We appreciate that. That was a really good night because that was grand final day.
And you guys had won.
And we'd won because the grand final, the presentation night was supposed to be a week after, but then the game got cancelled, so our presentation night was the night of. Anyway, thanks for that lift. Favourite teammate? And you can mention a couple. or 3 or 4? You can mention
So
a few
hard.
if you want.
I think for me, the person that I value the most throughout my time at Springvale is probably Chevy. She's so calm, she's passionate, and she plays hard, and she never quits, but she stays calm, and you know what you're going to get from Chevy. She's always like this even keel, sensible player who plays the game the right way, who looks after her teammates the right way, and wants to play for her teammates. Which I think in a team where there are quite a lot of hotheads, yourself included, that's really, really important. And I think she's such a vital part of that team, and keeping that team together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Sloane?
I've had a lot of teammates because I've played in a lot of the different teams in Springvale, but I think you've been my coach the entire time, but just watching you play and just how you go about it, it's taught me a lot, and I'm always in awe.
And I've stopped yelling at you as much as well, which has probably helped. No, I do feel like I've mellowed a bit, but that's very kind of you to say that, and I'm glad that I've had an impact. That's really cool. The best player, and this is just the hardest question ever because there's just so many amazing players that have come through and played in the different teams. But if you had to say who was the best you've played with, and you could list a couple too if you wanted to, but
Obviously Shay.
Yeah.
I'd put Chevy up there. Always reliable.
Consistent. Yeah. Just get stuff done.
Yep.
Huffy.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely, Huffy.
Pretty much everyone we've ever played with.
There's so many. Yeah, the club's so lucky to have had so many great elite players come through. But I think I have 3. And I think it's too hard to pick one because players are so different. I mean, it's pretty obvious you're by far the best pitcher who I've ever played with. Your dominance over so many years and your ability to just have that ball on a string every time you go out there. The way that you compete, the way that you think about the game, the way that you're constantly trying to get better and find new ways to do things. I don't think that will ever be matched by another pitcher. And likewise, Shay with her hitting, watching her hit and watching her journey and, just the constant learning and constant upskilling that she does, and then, imparting all of that on everyone else as well. And then this last season, watching Bronwyn gel, my God, the glove skills and it was such a pleasure to watch her play. I'm not sure I've ever seen someone field a ball like Bronwyn or run the bases like Bron. So sorry, I have 3.
I don't think I've seen anyone turn a single into a double with ease.
Yep.
Or a double into a triple.
I just haven't seen, there's just this, it's controlled aggression, but it's, again, I just amazed and a bit fangirly.
Fangirl. Yep.
Fangirl and Jelly, we love ya. Funniest person at the club?
It's Cat.
I think Shelley. Shelley's dry humour.
Knitting?
Oh, my God, I'd forgotten about that.
It's not a story for
that's
podcast.
Not a story for on the air.
Oh, that just reminded me of.
Yep, that's the one. I actually told that story the other week. Anyway, I think Shelley and Shirl, through no intention of your own, I think you've been the cause of many laughter from me.
I'm not a funny person.
That's it. Shelley's had a few votes now.
Yeah.
Kat's had a few votes, so definitely on board with those. Favourite coach, and it might be a couple. might be one.
Well, I've only had one real coach at Springvale. When I started, I think it was Shay's first or second year coaching.
Yeah.
I think it was her first year coaching.
Yeah, it was.
She'd taken over from you, and then myself and Chevy took over from Shay. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great answer. Like, there's not many better coaches out there than Shay. So, yeah.
That was an easy one.
It was, yeah.
Well, you've been my main coach, but your dad. I still run the bases these days, and I hear him yelling in my ear, "Run with your eyes!"
That is a very famous Mick Wern quote. Yeah.
So, yeah, you too.
And he still said that. I think he came to a training last season and we were all at the bases. I don't know, you probably weren't there because we were there alternate weeks, but we had a group of players like mixed 3s, 2s, 1s, and Mick was at home plate and a bunch of the 3s and the new players got there. He's like, "Now, what do we run with?" And they're like, "Your legs, your arms." He's like, "No, your eyes." It was funny. And they're like, "Oh." I just said to everyone, "Don't worry, you can get it wrong. I won't yell at you." And he goes, "I'm the one who'll yell at you. She might not, but I will." Some things will never change, but he'll love that you're giving him a shout out there. And in line with that,
it always leads into this.
It always leads into
the favourite coach.
Mix the favourite coach, but then we all talk about the Any memories come to you about this circus music?
I think every time we'd chase a player around.
Rundown play?
Yeah, rundown play, or just watch the ball fly around the infield and you're like, "Stop!" And then I can...
Just hold it.
Just hold it. And I can see Mick on the sideline going, "What are you doing?"
Now that you mention that, I think about, like, we've played some horrific midweek games. Like, our midweek record, if you looked at it, is probably the lowest percentage wins of anything. Like, we're horrible midweek. I don't know. There's just historically it's over a long period of time. But we've given up like 5, 6, 7 runs. I remember we played Doncaster last year and they just scored like maybe 10 in the first. Like they were just... And it all started, there was a play at second and Shay and I... there was first and third, I don't know if you guys remember. I'm hijacking the question. Chevy threw it over and Shay thought she got the runner out. And I was at second and she was at short and I thought it was out too. The umpire called it safe. The runner at third's like, "Cool, I'm going then," and ran. And we were complaining to the umpire still.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
And the run scored and Kat's on the bench yelling, "Runner!" And Shay and I are still complaining because we like complaining. And then Doncaster scored like 10 runs.
Yeah,
and we got flogged in that. And I remember because... it wasn't last year, it was the year before because Brom played against us. She hadn't played a lot that season, but she turned up for that game and played against us. Anyway, not a great game, but Mick was in my ear that night.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much any time we do something stupid, I in my ear I hear him saying, "You should be playing soccer."
Go and play soccer. Yeah. Famous quote again.
I might be cheating with my answer because I wasn't playing for Springvale. I was playing against Springvale in my Malvern days.
Right.
And it involves you. And so something had gone wrong and you really didn't like our coach. So you were like really giving it to him and us the whole game.
I know who that was.
Yep. And so the umpire clearly made another bad call. Probably the right call, and you lost it. You had this little tantrum. You ripped off your coach's helmet, you threw it into the ground, and then you tried to kick it. But you missed, and you kicked your toe into the ground, and then you hobbled off, and you were limping for the rest of the day. And I just remember sitting on the bench going, "This chick is nuts." So that...
I think I remember that game.
Yeah. That's probably one of the funniest,
an
the
infield
funniest things
fly.
I've seen. Oh,
Call.
you remember. Of course you do.
It was an infield fly call that wasn't... It was the wrong call.
It was like way over third base.
First base.
First base?
Yeah, it was the wrong call. And it was Pete Matters. I remember the umpire. And I loved Pete Matters. I thought he was great. But he really stuffed that one up. And there'd been a few calls in that game. And I remember stubbing my toe and it was one of the most embarrassing moments. of
It was
baseball life.
one of the most hilarious moments of my baseball life.
Well, I'm glad I could entertain you.
Yep. Yeah.
I'd like to say that's a great memory, but could have included someone else. Any other memories, or is it just, when we do random stuff? And
Yeah, I think so. I think, there's that typical game out at Essendon where they scored 23 runs or something. That was just a comedy of errors that day.
it was so bad.
And like you said, I could hear mixed. Yeah.
Sometimes you're thankful he's not there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, if he was here, he'd be giving it to us. That brings us to the end. Before we finish, is there anything else you guys want to say, or any shout outs you want to give to anyone that you haven't been able to do yet before we finish up?
Now I've composed myself. Thank you, Benny. I appreciate it.
You're a legend, Benny.
I just think to, the club in general, gave my baseball life a second era. And for me personally, it's been such a great place to be, and now to raise my little family. So, thank you
cool.
to everyone at the club.
Cool. We're having a function. Both of you are already registered, and Sinead, you are, because I registered you.
I was going to ask, did I register already?
Yes, you did. And that'll be Friday the 31st of Jan. So anyone who's tuning in, make sure you go to the Facebook page or the Instagram account and click on the link to RSVP. We're close to 50 already, but we're trying to get 100 people to that event. There's been a lot of players, a lot of great people. The supporters, the family, everyone. No kids. We're not bringing our kids that night. We're going to have a couple of quiet waters. But please get along. And then the 50th anniversary for the club on the Sunday, which will be a family event. We're going to bring the kids out onto the field, have some food together, and talk about all those great memories. So looking forward to that. A big thank you to the Outfielders and the two mums. Really appreciate you giving up your time. I know it's not easy. And I know everyone's going to love hearing your perspective and your memories. So big thank you from me.
Thank you.
Thank you.